1996 would be a interesting year for Walt Disney Home Video. After the huge, immeasurable success of 1994 and 1995, 1996 was a bit of a lower tier year in terms of the success on home video. They released more of the classics that had not been released on home video in either a very long time or ever at all. The biggest release of 1996 was Toy Story, but there were some Masterpiece Collection titles released during this year, and I figure let's take a look at some of them. Now we're going to start with Pocahontas. It followed a rather disappointing box office run, especially coming off of the heels of The Lion King. Pocahontas was not particularly well received when it came out in theaters, but it was a big hit still. I think it was the most successful film of the year worldwide in 1995. It has a sticker label, so that might raise your concerns, but don't worry, it has a print date, so it is a legit copy. February 8th, 1996. Nevertheless, Pocahontas was still relatively successful on home video and received a couple of re-releases, including part of the Gold Classics collection and as its own special edition later on in 2005 to celebrate its 10th anniversary. Quickly following Pocahontas came Walt Disney's masterpiece, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Even though technically it wasn't Walt Disney's masterpiece because Walt Disney wasn't around for this film's release to theaters. Walt Disney did greenlight Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, which was the first of the segments of this movie. As we all know, it includes a special bonus footage of the behind-the-scenes look at the making of this. He did greenlight Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day before it was made and released, because it was released in 1968. March 29th, 1996 is the print date, another sticker label, but as you can see, we've got the gold. We've got the gold around Winnie the Pooh, so we know it's a legit copy. And Winnie the Pooh has remained one of the top-tier Disney films. Everybody loves Winnie the Pooh. Depending on, of course, how you communicate your love of Disney films with each other. Next up is the Aristocats. Despite not being as acclaimed as The Jungle Book or some of the other films that would follow and precede the Aristocats was still a pretty decent hit at the box office following several re-releases, including a pretty successful 1987 re-release that many people deemed that the Aristocats would be the next big release in 1988. Of course, Disney chose to do Cinderella instead. And here's the Aristocats. Nice ink label there. March 26th, 1996. The Aristocats would be part of the Gold Classics collection and then receive its own special edition DVD release in 2008. And last but not least is Oliver and Company. When Oliver and Company first came out in 1988, it was Disney's biggest hit ever, trumping all of the releases that had come prior. It had been just an immeasurable success that Disney had not had up to that point. So much so that when Who Framed Roger Rabbit was being made, Bob Zemeckis, who was the director, did not want Disney animators to be in charge of it, and instead brought it to Richard Williams in London. And we've got, we've got two different print dates here. We've got the April 11th, 1996, and July 4th, 1996. I believe this is the print date, and this was when the Tape Master was made, if I'm not mistaken. But since its initial release, Oliver and Company has not really held a lot of people's popularity in terms of animated films. It's probably deemed Disney's biggest mistake of the era between The Black Cauldron and, say, Tarzan. But there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, it's just a film that does not really sit well with audiences. But that was the year 1996. A relatively quiet year that was buoyed by the successes on home video of both Toy Story and Aladdin and the King of Thieves. Join me for the next part where we take a look at, oh dear, one of the long years. 1997, which started with Bambi and ended all the way in the deep fall with The Jungle Book and Sleeping Beauty. I will see you guys then. Sayonara.